Hello guys, what's up? What's happening? It is Crazy BJ here again with another video for you. I know, I don't do videos for months on end, and then all of a sudden I do another one within a week, which is unheard of. But there is a reason, and it's because you guys are wanting specific content. So I'm just kind of replying to what you guys are wanting. I was thrilled to see that the previous video about changing your driver's license is of help. That's really good, and thanks very much for the comments. And I hope everything works out well on that for you. But the reason for this video is I want to talk about the buying process here in Bulgaria and what it is that you need to do when it comes to buying a house over here, and maybe to answer some of your questions. Not all, because I am not the all-saying, all-knowing legality in Bulgaria. I can only tell you how it worked from my end, and I've bought 3 houses, so I'm pretty much in the knowledge now. Um, I'm not going to go into the whole why I bought 3 houses, but I'm hoping that this video is going to prevent you from having to go down that route. So as to help you out. So I'm just going to let you know a couple of different things in which, kind of to help you out when it comes to buying. And the number one thing that I do see on a regular occasion to people who are thinking about buying here is where to buy in Bulgaria. Some people have approached me and says, well, what region do you live in? And the thing I want to say about it is that only you can know where to buy in Bulgaria based on your own experiences. Never, ever, ever trust or believe that just because where somebody else lives is where it is that you want to live, because that isn't always the case. Um, so what I would recommend is that you take a little bit of time out to go and see some places. If you're using expat groups, you will get a lot of expats out there who are like, come to this area, come to this area, come to this area. It's really good. They've got this, that, and the other. And yeah, that's good. That's fine. But that doesn't necessarily mean to say that it's somewhere that you're going to love. It's really important that you find somewhere that you're going to feel that you can integrate. Me personally, this is completely, no disrespect against any other English speakers or any other British people, but I didn't want to live in a big British built up surrounding, because I moved here because I wanted to experience the local culture. I wanted to get to know the language. I wanted to get to meet the people. And I'm really lucky for that privilege, what I'm experiencing now. However, if you do want to be able to go somewhere where there is a lot more expats, a lot more English speakers, then you need to research those areas and and do homework. That's the main things. That is definitely the main things. Now, when it comes to buying property, it's a little bit different from the UK. So let's just quickly remind ourselves of what happens when we buy property in the UK. So we see a property that we like and we put an offer in on it, and the offer's accepted. Then what we tend to do is, a lot of us, we don't buy in cash, we get a mortgage. Whatever the case, whether it be cash or a mortgage, we'll get a surveyor to have a look at the property to see what sort of structure the property is, if there's any problems, etc., etc. Then it goes through the hands of the legal, through the solicitors who will do the searches to make sure that, there's no roads or anything planned to be, passing through your house or something like that. Then a contract's drawn up, and then the contracts are exchanged, and then you have your completion date until you move in, and that's more or less the buying process in the UK. So the Bulgarian one is a little bit different. And if you've been looking at houses in Bulgaria, the first thing you'll notice is that the price of property is a lot less than what it is in the UK. There are a lot more properties that need a lot more renovations than the UK. And what I would say is this is how a typical buying process will go, especially when predominantly you'll be buying and paying cash for the house. So if you look, let's say for instance that if you're looking for a property which needs a lot of renovation, what you'll do is it'll more than likely be through an agent, or it'll be through somebody that you know. So we'll use the agents. We'll use the agent as an example. So what the agent will probably do is they will. You'll decide on the property. The price will be agreed, and you want to go ahead with it. The agent will need to either ask you to accompany them for the contract to be stamped by a notary, which I'll go into in a moment. Or what you'll do is, if you're just visiting and you have to go back and you want to come back later, what you can do is get the agent to be your power of attorney. In which case, all that happens is the agent draws up an agreement and you accompany the agent to a notary. The notary will, you should have the agent. If the agent's an authorised translator, they'll translate the document. If not, you should have an authorised translator who will tell you basically what the document says, just to say that you're giving the agent permission to deal with the sale on your behalf. And then if you're happy with that, you sign the agreement. The agent will sign the agreement. The notary will sign the agreement, and it'll be stamped. If you don't need the agent to be the power of attorney and you want to be there for the actual sale itself, then what you can do is it goes along a similar line. So the first thing you want to make sure is that the agent has what they call a SKITS. Now, a SKITS is a document. It's a bit like in the UK, we have a document called the Land Registry. So a SKITS works alongside the same process. Now, parts of Bulgaria, the SKITS is digitally registered, but that isn't throughout Bulgaria yet. There is still parts where it's still on paper. And what the agent should do is they should go to your local municipality of the house where it's being built and acquire a SKITS be drawn up, because the SKITS in Bulgaria, if it's a paper one, it's only valid for 6 months. So a new one has to be drawn up. And what the SKITS basically is it's the boundary. And it's really important that the SKITS is obtained, because if you buy a property which you need to renovate, if that property has no up-to-date fencing, you need to know what your boundary is so that you can get your fencing and that put up. Like for us, it was really important because we've got dogs. So we didn't want the dogs obviously to escape in the neighbour's garden. So we needed to know what our boundary was, which is why the SKITS was a great thing to have. So the SKITS will tell you the whole boundary, including whatever you have on there. So for instance, most houses have a house and a barn. The SKITS will probably show a house and a barn. If it's not showing it, then there's a reason it's not. If it shows a building that should be there that isn't there, you might need to get further investigation done, in which case a solicitor might need to be appointed to find out what the building was, or vice versa. If there's a building there that isn't on the SKITS, you might need to seek legal advice to find out if that building's legal and that there's no problem with it, in case that at any time the mayor of the village comes along and says that building should not be there, it needs to be torn down. Now let's just imagine, for the sake of it, that the SKITS is fine, you've got it, it's all legal and above board. What will then happen is the agent will draw up the contract. So it's a deed. It's the deed of the property. And again, just like the power of attorney, what you do is you, the agent, and an authorised translator need to go over to the notary of the municipality. And what the notary will do is they will go through the particulars of the contract. to make sure that you understand, you know, the price, where it is, if there's anything specific that you need to know, anything like that. As long as that you are in agreement with that, and basically you just agree through the translator. If you don't know Bulgarian, the translator will explain. What will then happen is you'll have about 8 copies of this agreement to sign. And the reason being is because the notary keeps a copy, a copy goes to the municipality, a copy goes to the government, you keep a copy, maybe the agent keeps a copy on file, and 2 others, which I can't remember. But it's about 6 or 8 that you'll sign, so you'll feel that you're doing a lot of signing. Once it's signed, what will then happen is the notary has to stamp it, but they don't stamp it there and then. So you basically will also, in the meantime, you'll have to pay a tax. Now, the tax is different depending on where you are, and it's actually on the document. Normally what happens is the agreement you've got, there's another agreement which is the old agreement from the seller basically, and on there it's got the tax. Now it's one-off tax that you have to pay, which is a government tax on the property. Now when you pay anything like taxes or anything in Bulgaria, you never pay it to the notary or a government institution. It has to be paid at a bank. So you pay it at the bank, and the bank give you what they call the beleshka, the receipt, and they'll sign the sign it, it's stamped, and then you hand that over to say yes, it's been paid. So as long as your tax is being paid, because the tax on the property must be brought up to date before the sale can go through. And I think that's the only real thing that you'll pay apart from the agency fee, which is something you'll agree with them. Then what will happen is it's probably about a day or two later, you'll go back to the notary. You might go with the agent, you might not. To be honest, don't worry if the agent's not there, because the notary will know who you are and what you're there for, and it's just a case of they give you the deed. Now in between all this, because of the money, in between all this, the money exchange will happen between you and the seller, and the agent will normally agree that it can be done at the notary, it can be done via an alternative arrangement, but the agent will tell you what to do. So basically, there's no worries. But the thing is that it is all legal and above board. Um, when you get that document, it is a legal document to tell you that the property that you own is yours. You know, it's a freehold property, so you don't have any ground rent or anything to pay like that. So you know, you don't have to worry about somebody that's going to come along and say, look, we're going to take your house, or we're going to tear your house down. Um, there's not really a need for searches to be done because they're in a lot of villages. There's not really planned roads. There are planned motorways in Bulgaria happening, um, but the what you can do is, to be on the safe side, is just ask the agent and just say, look, do you know if there's any planned motorways? Again, do your own homework, just to find out if there is any plans, you know, of anything being built through or anything. Not really a problem with any mining here either. So they won't really do searches for mines or anything like that. Um, so it is all above board and straightforward. So, you know, you haven't got a lot to really worry about when it comes to the purchase. It is very, very much straightforward. And it can take as it takes about on average probably about 21 days all in all. That's just to make sure, because the agent has to get the SKITS, which takes a couple of days. They have to then draw up the contract, then make the appointment with the notary, and then the notary has to sign it, and then it has to be stamped and then given to you. Some properties as well, be aware, depending on the type of property it is and how derelict it is, some of them might not come with keys. So you might get like the agreement. The first property we bought had no keys, so we had to break into it with bolt cutters, believe it or not. But that is and does not surprise me one little bit now. Um, so that's all in all really more or less about the process of buying. Um, I mean, if it's a mortgage, then it's going to be different where you are going to have a solicitor because they have to draw up a contract, which is to do with the bank, to say that yes, you're going to make the repayments every month for the next God knows how long. Um, or for instance, if it's a new build, you might want to have a solicitor because you need to make sure that the property was built legally, and that there's no everything was done with the right permissions, so you haven't got to worry about somebody coming along and saying, no, that property's got to be demolished. Because believe it or not, unfortunately, it has been known again, not as much here, but on the coast side, where people have come along and thought, you know what, we're just going to acquire this land and we're going to build on it, and they weren't allowed to build on it because land is readily available, but planning permission works exactly the same. You have to make sure that you get the necessary permissions in which to build, because if you don't, they can't come along and they can't demolish the property. So just be aware that if you are planning on buying, the same as if it's an apartment or something like that, in a block, you do get the necessary legal checks done to make sure that the building is above board and everything needs that is done that needed to be done. And then you can like kind of rest assured that you've got nothing to worry about your property. Just be savvy, guys. Just think like of it like you will be home in the UK or wherever. If it's a bit of a dilapidated property, you're buying it cheap. The likelihood is you've got nothing to worry about. If it's a new build, you're probably going to have to do a bit more homework. But all in all, the buying process is nowhere near as long, nowhere near as stressful as what it is, as what I had when I bought my first house back in the UK, which was, God, 20 odd years ago. So yeah, it's very, very relative and straightforward. And I just hope that this little chat gave you a good insight as to what it's like buying. Um, some of you might be going, wow, can you really buy property that cheap? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You can buy property from as little as, I've seen them from as little as £700. The only thing being is be careful, guys. If you're buying a property at £700, the property, excuse me, the property is probably ready to drop. And it's not even worth paying for a surveyor to go and have a look at it, because a surveyor is going to tell you what you can already see. Um, if you're buying again a property that needs renovations and you want to consider a surveyor, that's fine. There's probably surveyors available, but you know, just do your own due diligence. I mean, the things I would say is a watch out for is if the property is built with mud brick and lime render, that's where you want to be getting kind of alarm bells ringing, because you want to get like the foundation checked. Um, that's not to say that there's any problems with it, but you just might want to, because this is something from what we learned from property one. So it's things like that that you want to look into. Really what you want to be doing is you want to say, like, what's the property made of? Is it made of brick? If it's made of brick, great. How long has it been standing? Um, Things like cracks and you'll find a lot of property which has got cracking and things like that. That doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything the matter with the foundation. It could just be that the property is just that run down because it hasn't been maintained for a long time. This property here, when we bought it, nobody had lived here for about 7-8 years. So it needed like, a good amount of work. It's amazing how quickly these can fall apart when they're not being maintained. There's so much more I could tell you, and off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. But by all means, again, if you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to do a follow-up, or I'm happy to put something on the comments. And just remember, guys, what I said, I am not a legality. I can only tell you the experiences, what I've had personally. So some of you might come along and argue with me and say, well, that's not the case. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just telling you how it is from my own experience. But all in all, if you are thinking about it, you know, just get out there, go and have a look at some places. And I hope you find a place that's suitable for you for many years to come. And please keep me updated because I would love to hear how you're getting on with that as well. And that's everything from me. So I will be back with another video because somebody wants one with probably some up-to-date stuff about doctors and health and things like that. So I'm going to be making one of those in the next few days. So that's everything from me, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, morning, week, month, whatever. All right, guys. Until next time, anyway. Bye for now. Bye-bye.